kala hanichnesas lachuppah. Halachas appertain to a chala having her wedding. So we're going to be talking about some unusual circumstances which hopefully don't apply nowadays. But the basic halacha is as follows: Isha shehi machina es atman nesuin tzricha lispar tchila zayin akim. A woman who is preparing herself to get married has to do shivan akim, count the 7 days. Ben shehi katana at sha'adan ra'as adam yolam. Whether she's a katana who never saw any blood before, whether she's a kana or she's a woman, shekva paska milarais, who has past the menopause, still has to follow this procedure of shivan akim. Chashina shema machmas chimud yot men eza tipa dam v'nervad. That because of the chimud, because of her desire, because of her passion for her husband, that maybe some blood was released. Therefore, for halachic purposes, we treat her like a nida. And after 7 days, she's got to check, do a badika every day until the tefillah. And after the tefillah, often Kala will go to the mikveh on the day before or 2 days before the wedding. She's got to continue doing a badika ad bilas mitzvah until she's had marital relations base. And these are unusual circumstances. If the wedding was postponed for whatever reason, so it could be that type of situation where there was some kind of argument, and then they reached an agreement to make the wedding on a different date. Even though she did the shivan akim at the beginning, she's got to start again because this is called the din of chimud chodosh. That now there's now more of a chance of having blood again. Even if you checked yourself during the days in between lo mahanilo, it wouldn't help. It wasn't a proper. It wasn't definitely postponed. But for example, there was argument going on regarding the dowry, the chadoma, machmazu, because of this reason, the wedding was delayed, but they didn't actually didn't cancel. The one we said before, the wedding was cancelled. Here it was delayed as such, therefore it's a little bit different. Or jointly they agreed to push off the wedding and fixed another date. In this case, they have to ask a shaila if the first 7 days that she counted would be valid. In this case, to be and a third case, if they argued at the time of the actual wedding, again, wholly circumstances which we can imagine today. And there was a big argument, and the first chosan was dismissed or wasn't wanted, and another chosan came, and she's going to get married to another chosan. So the 7 days which she counted for the first chosan don't count. Let's call him Reuven. Don't count for the second chosan. And if in between, before the marriage took place, they reached an agreement with the first chosan with Reuven, but in the meantime Shimon had been designated. The first 7 days that she counted will not help because she turned her attention away from Reuven. She's got to count again. Gimel. Make every effort to make sure that woman should not get married until she has been to the mikveh and is no longer a nida. And if it's for some reason they have to do it, it can be at times the time of the year when we've only got limited amount of time to make a wedding. Or another example is where she became a nida unexpectedly. And you have to make what's called a chuppah's nida. Or even after the chuppah, there was she became a nida. This is a very difficult situation which arises from time to time. They can't have yichud without somebody being there. Asher titzbal till she goes to the mikveh. So what we do, cotton, you take a child, it's la chosna katana, it's la kala. You take a young male child for the chosen and a katana for the kala, and they are there. They've got to be old enough that they represent a barrier as far as halachas of yichud are concerned, but not old enough that they shouldn't fully understand exactly what's going on. The ain misyachad in afilu bayom, they can't have yichud below katana katana without these children being present. So it's even stricter than a normal case of a man and woman who are married, and there's no issa of yichud here. There's an issa of yichud. They have to know a little bit that they would be a barrier. And not old enough that they would perhaps be vulnerable to temptation themselves. The halacha is the same here, whether as far as the chosen and kala are concerned, whether it's a bachor, an unmarried person, a widower, basula and almana, shakol shelo bal isha zu miyamav, as long as he hasn't married this woman before, which is going to be the case normally. Chashina and atakif yitzrei, we're concerned that he will be his passions are sufficiently roused at this time for obvious reasons. But asul is yachid below shmir, and they can't have yichud without somebody being there. Dalad halacha of machzig urushos, so somebody who got divorced and then remarries his his wife that he divorced, provided of course that she hasn't got married somebody else in the meantime. Machzig urushos sricha lispa zayin akim, she's got to count shivan akim. Afilu gilshuk kashhasim beres, even if he divorced her when she was pregnant, v'chzira kashima beres, and then he took her back very soon afterwards, she's still more beres, so she couldn't have been a nida in between. Or gilshuk kashima nekes, or he divorced her when she was feeding, v'chzira kashima nekes, again where it's not likely she was a nida. Then ava konsa kodam, but if he did do this and married her, mutarin lehes yachid, they are allowed to have yichud. So if they're not permitted to each other, then of course for other reasons, because of nida, then of course that takes over. That's over this. It rules over this. So the underlying point is they still has to do this, because even though these women in these situations can't normally become a nida, but we have a special concern of dam chimud, that it may be that because of the situation that they're in, he's remarrying her, so we're concerned of dam chimud. So ideally you follow the halacha and keep shivim akiyim. But if he didn't and he married her without her doing shivim akiyim, then it's a situation which is very regrettable. Let's leave it like that. So is another halacha here. The Kitzur is speaking about a situation where the chosen and kala are permitted to each other. Nevertheless, even when they're permitted to each other, they should not literally sleep together until they are ready to actually consummate their marriage, because this could lead to impure thoughts, and it applies also because of concerns about other isurim which may arise. This is a halacha which applies to a chosen and kala only. Vav hakoines esapasula bayal bilas mitzvah, marries a woman who's not been married before, has to do bilas mitzvah. Avapisha dam shaisis v'yored, even though at this point there will be blood. Gomer biyaso, sign of enachoshes, it can finish. Aval acha shagoma biyaso perishes atzma mimena v'itmea. So straight afterwards, then she becomes tame. But afila niras ashum dam, and even if there was no blood, chashim shema yotza tipas dam v'nechba v'shich basera. Maybe there was blood, they couldn't see it. It was covered. Therefore, after the bilas mitzvah, she's considered to be a nida. Zayin. Sula shel ila rishona tavla. V'gam ila shnia ras hadam. Chem b'pam shlishi revi. Yesh b'za shalit moteres li shayet sabala. if what happened, unfortunate again situation, woman went to the mikveh and straight away became started counting again, and then experienced bleeding straight after the second time again, and then after the third or fourth time, straight away, each time she went to the mikveh, as soon as there was cohabitation, she became a nidar. Then there are problems here which need to be considered in Shulchan Aruch, which need to be considered about whether she can stay with her husband, because it means that there's a very difficult situation at home, and therefore you have to ask a paisik. Ches, mutaliv b'silas b'Shabbos. It's permitted to have bi'ar rishona on to have bi'ar on Shabbos. So there's famous kasha of chabura. Afa pishu is a chabura, even though he makes a chabura, it's considered to be a chabura. Nevertheless, this is permitted because of the halacha of dam b'sulim. It's permitted because dam b'sulim have a special place, which is discussed in the poskim.